Hello, my name is David Sisco. My pronouns are he, him, and welcome to my podcast, Wholehearted Voice Pedagogy. This podcast is dedicated to the art and practice of teaching singers. For the last 6 months, I have had the incredible honor to collaborate with some really wonderful special guests to talk about how, not what, we teach our singers. And as you may know, that this podcast is actually an extension of my book, which is right here. It just came in the mail today. So I have not opened it yet. I thought I would do that here with you because I've talked so much about writing this book and about the things in it. So I thought it might be kind of nice to share this with you. I will tell you right now that if Hope Core or getting misty or any sort of teary-eyed thing is not your thing, save yourself. Now is a good time to look away. Literally, this is not staged. I have literally just gotten this today and I have not opened this yet. Taylor and Francis Group, oh my God. And there she is. Wholehearted Voice Pedagogy, an integrative approach to training vocal artists. So there are a couple things I just want to share with you. First of all, I want you to take in this beautiful cover. The cover art was done by my undergraduate voice teacher, Dr. Carl Johangen. And not only is he a brilliant voice teacher, but obviously a beautiful artist. And Carl was just so foundational to me as a singer, and was so supportive of my interest as a composer, and also, was such a wonderful gay role model for me when I was still kind of not figuring out who I was or hadn't come out of the closet yet. This artwork is made all the more special because I wrote a piece for a song cycle for Carl to premiere on a concert at Carnegie Hall about 10 years ago. And as a thank you gift, he created this artwork. And I just thought, body, mind, spirit, I thought it was like the perfect artwork to have represented on the book. And so it just is very special that my teacher is here on the front page with me. I also just want to acknowledge when you go inside, I had some really amazing people that I really highly, highly respect write these endorsements for me that I literally cried reading each one when I received them from them. So I just want to say thank you to Nick Perna and Elizabeth Ann Benson and Isai Jess Munoz, Linda Barkin, Harriet L. Schwartz, Brian Kramer, and Megan Durham. I think the world of each of you, and so to have your endorsement really means a lot. The other person that I just want to give a shout out to, and this is also super, super special to me as I'm flipping forward. Speaking of forward, the foreword was written by Dr. Everett McCorvey. And Dr. Everett McCorvey is esteemed as a voice teacher, pedagogue, choral conductor. I mean, his career continues to just cover so many different areas. But on top of that, I had the pleasure of having Dr. McCorvey be my first professional voice teacher at New York State Summer School of the Arts Choral Studies program at Skidmore College when I was between my sophomore, junior, and senior years in high school. So you can imagine how special it is to have someone like Dr. McCorvey who, along with Dr. Johangen, is the embodiment of wholeheartedness in the voice studio. So, yeah. So I have a book. I actually have several. I forget they send you like several copies, author copies that I'm sure these are going to go to reviewers and people like that. So I'm going to go cry off camera and then I'm going to come right back. Hope you'll join me. I want to welcome my very first guest, who is not only someone I consider to be a cherished colleague and friend, but also someone to whom I owe a huge debt of gratitude when it comes to the book. He read a draft of the entire book and offered some really insightful and supportive comments. Please welcome Justin Petersen.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Congratulations! You had a baby.
I had a stop baby.
You had a baby. It's a big baby.
It's a 200-page baby.
That's right.
It's so funny because holding the book in my hands, just like it's just like, shouldn't this be longer? it felt like it was longer.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I look at some things I read and I'm like, you think it's like 8,000 words and you're like, really? It's so short. You just really are amazed by, but you know what? You condensed everything on it. So, that was part of it as well, I'm sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I get to thank you again publicly for reading through and offering some really great insights. I really appreciate you.
I loved it.
Thanks.
I'm glad to see it's real now. Pinocchio is a real boy.
I know, all grown up. As I've shared, the peer review process was an experience with a couple of different publishing companies that I went through, there was a lot of praise, and there was a lot of some very salty people had some things to say about it, and so I'm interested to see how it's received. I mean, I've done my best to be to present information and ask thoughtful questions and allow people to kind of come to their own conclusions about this research, and which is why I wanted to reach out to you, because to me, that's what you do. You're really great, Justin, at synthesizing a lot of information and providing a contemporary context for that. And so I'm really grateful for your work with your Substack, and which I'll include in the show notes for people to check out if they're not aware of your brilliance.
Oh, you're so nice. Thank you. No, it's about I think you and I both have a passion for making people think a little bit, and it's okay to be an iconoclast. At the end of the day, it's okay to be an iconoclast. I always feel like if everybody thinks the same thing, then nobody's really thinking.
Yeah.
There's not much thinking going on. No, there's not much thinking going on. And to think, you have to be able to actually move away from the hoi polloi, as it were, and, really get time with yourself and think about, what do I think? What do I believe? Not just what is everyone else thinking and believing. Because a lot of people can be wrong. I mean, groups can be wrong. That's the thing. I love this meme where there's like one person standing outside of a massive group of millions of people. And it's just one person standing alone that says, yes, you're all wrong. So I love that meme because I'm like, sometimes that's true. And in history has borne that out. I made a stance when I was starting off my writing, and I said, I'm never going to attack people ever. That's never going to be part of my modus operandi, but I sure as hell am going to attack ideas. I'm absolutely going to attack ideas and sacred cows and all of that stuff. And because, a thought is not a person, it's like our belief is not a person, right? You may have that belief, but there's a lot of attacking, at least I'm looking at it from a classical sort of frame, but there is some of this in musical theater too.
Totally.
This idea of I'm going to attack this person, I'm going to attack that idea or that person. I don't go in for attacking people at all. I'm like, let's I was thinking about this morning, the Nats Journal, once upon a time in the 60s and 70s, they used to do point and counterpoint articles, right? Where one person would make one kind of particular pedagogical viewpoint, and then another person would counter that with a contrary view. And then you as the reader could sort of look at both views and be like, what do I think about this based on the accumulated information? We don't really do that anymore, and I kind of wish we would. I kind of wish we'd bring back that kind of thing in the Nats Journal. I think that would be a really interesting column.
I'm just wondering, do you, with your Substack, do you have people engaging in positive ways? Do you have people engaging in ways that do give kind of pushback? And is it pushback to the ideas, or does it feel personal? Or do you mind me asking how you kind of navigate that?
I have written a long time, and I have had people who will comment, mostly I'd say 99% of it is positive. Because again, it's the frame in which I'm writing. I'm not trying, I don't write even in a way that says, oh, I need this article to be really, really good. Or I need this article to like really get likes. Or the minute I feel like any artist or writer starts to write for the audience, you've lost your voice. Yeah. You've lost your voice because now you have given over your voice to a crowd of people. And crowds are fickle, right? People are fickle. And so when I write or do anything I'm doing, I just feel like this is an interesting idea. I find this compelling. I want to flesh this out. Or this can be something I'm thinking about. It's not fully formed yet, but I want to put it out in the universe and see, what happens with it. Yeah. And so I have had almost all positive experiences because honestly, here's the other thing. Okay. I don't get in the mud and fight with people because when people watch a public spectacle, they can't really tell who the asshole is.
Yeah.
So I don't fight with people in public because I think it's a really bad look. I feel like if you're going to have a situation with someone, have it in private. Funny that the more you write, and I know you've experienced this, but the more you write, the more you kind of find people that are resonating at your frequency. Yeah. Where people are like, oh, what you're saying is really, really good. I really resonate with what you're saying. And your tribe, you'll find your tribe. When I started writing, everything that I was doing was about me sharing what I was learning. Yeah. It wasn't like, look at me. It was, hey, I'm learning this, and this is what I'm learning. And I found this really great quote, and look at this. And it really was what I would term a Crestomathy in my writing, the name of my blog. Because Crestomathy is basically this idea of collecting a book, of learning something, languages usually, where you're just beginning to put everything into one place. It's kind of like a little, it's a go-to, like they used to call it vademecum in Latin, which was like, go with me. It would be like this little book that would just be distilled all of the information that you're learning, the things you're learning. And I don't want to be pedantic. I don't want to be dogmatic. I don't like those kind of things. There's a lot of dogmatism, which I don't like, because life is in the gray and pedagogy is in the gray too.
Yeah. And it's contextual. This information is contextual.
Totally.
And that's again why I appreciate you is that it's like it's not information for information's sake. It is information for for the betterment of not only the student's experience but our experience as well.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Well, and also it's to me it's always been a source of wonderment and delight because you raid the treasure chests of writing of the past. And there's so many jewels that are just sitting there, like waiting for you to kind of take them, and because, like I said, you can't get to the books of the future; they're not written yet.
Right.
The only way we can course correct. Well, and that's another thing I was going to talk about today too. Was this idea about error correction? If everyone's thinking the same thing all the time, there's no way to error correct in that. Mm-hmm. There's no way to course correct when everybody's kind of like, we're all doing this now, and you have to do this with us. There's no way to get course correction on that because everybody has to kind of fall into the same line and be like, we all have to teach the same way and do the same things. And no, sorry.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. No, we don't. No, we don't. No, we don't. And that's okay. I often it helps me to conceive of this as like restaurants. There's no one restaurant in New York City that can feed all the people of New York City. They need multiple restaurants to feed people. And so it doesn't make sense to think, well, I'm the only restaurant in New York City. It's like ridiculous, You can't be the only voice studio in the world. Right. Not everyone is going to avail themselves of your magical graces. So that also helps because when competition rises up, I'm like, okay, well, does the Italian restaurant in Somerville, Massachusetts compete with the one in Cambridge? It's like, no, they're like, I got stuff to do. I got to make pasta. I got pizza to make here. Also staying busy is also a thing for me. It's like, stay busy, and then you don't have to worry about what other people are doing. And that's very helpful for me. It's like I'm too busy to worry about what other people are doing. I'm solving my own stuff, working on my own stuff, and that helps.
I've already moved on to book 4.
Exactly.
I don't got time.
No tea, no shade. But I'm always sitting with people. When I'm online, and I see people that are perpetually online. I'm like, how many students you got? How many people you teaching that you're online this much? I'm like, yeah. Skeptical. That's what the kids would say. It's very sus.
Look at you.
I know. I'm plugged in. I'm so plugged in with the youths. Exactly. Yes. No, but it's true. I'm like, I'm too busy to worry about what other people think.
Oh, my friend, thank you so much for taking the time to celebrate with me. I really appreciate it.
I wish I had a little popper. I would just pop off some confetti here.
I'm looking forward to having it out in the world, and looking forward as always to continue to read what you put out in the world as well.
Same. Mutual Admiration Society.
Yay.
I thought it might be nice to kind of briefly walk you through what's in this book. So let's start with part 1, Understanding the Relationship. In chapter 1, which is titled The Student-Teacher Relationship, A Historical Perspective, my goal was to look at how the student-teacher relationship evolved from the 16th to 20th centuries. And I did this by first outlining the facets of the master-apprentice model, which were highly influential to the relationship, and by reviewing vocal treaties, singers' biographies, and hundreds of etude articles. What my research revealed was a slow migration from a teacher to student-centered approach to learning. Chapter 2 is entitled Opportunities and Challenges Facing Today's Students and Teachers. And here I wanted to explore the many issues or other issues that either support or potentially hinder our work in the voice studio. So this includes things like technology, social media, student and teacher stress, and more. I also explore teaching modalities that support more equity in the learning process. Some really cool research here that I believe hasn't always made its way into the voice studio. So I hope you'll find it helpful to you. I hope what the first 2 chapters make clear is that the student-teacher relationship is complex for many reasons. In answer to this, I wrote chapter 3, 4 essential pillars of holistic teaching. So what are the 4 pillars? Well, curiosity, vulnerability, mindfulness, and self-care. And in each section, I share current research and make recommendations on how students and teachers can embody these characteristics. Finally, chapter 4 is entitled Creating Healthy Boundaries and Developing Clear Communication. And here I dive into navigating interpersonal relationships with students, made all the more complicated because we often have different ways of communicating than our students do. I talk about transference and countertransference, developing healthy boundaries, how to navigate common conflicts, and conflict resolution regarding issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. For me, this and the previous chapter are the heart of this book. Okay. Enough about the book. Let's take a quick break, and then I'll introduce you to my next guest. My next guest was actually my first guest on the podcast, and so it's so great to have him back and drop in some more wisdom bombs. Dr. Felix, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, as always.
It is. The pleasure is mine, truly. I have referenced our episode so many times to people, and I've sent it so many times to people because I think you shared such great information on narrative and operant conditioning, a phrase that I have added to my lexicon now, and just really grateful for your knowledge. And it just felt very right in my spirit to have you be part of this book launch episode.
Thank you. I am so appreciative of you and your work as well. And also, it's really lovely to know that the money I paid for my degrees are actually going to use.
Indeed, they are.
Listen, after I got my bachelor's degree, I had ended up with like 3 copies of the same theory textbook because it was different editions and I had to get the new edition each time. And so for a very long time, they sat under my monitors because, as I said, I wanted a good theoretical foundation. And that is kind of how I saw a lot of what I did in my undergrad. And then I finally got to grad school and was like, oh, there are different ways to do this. Like, this is, you know what I'm saying? It didn't feel as prescriptive or proscriptive, I guess I should say. And it felt like everything I took really mattered. And I didn't have to get new editions of the book every semester, you know?
Exactly. Well, you led perfectly into, I just wanted to ask you two things. And the first is, when I think about Wholehearted voice pedagogy, you were literally the top of the list. I mean, you were someone, for me, I see the work you do, and you have like 30 degrees, and you have all this knowledge, but as I think you've just alluded to, I mean, you have this knowledge, but what I appreciate about you, Felix, is that you're able to take your knowledge and funnel it through your humanity to reach your students, and I think in a really powerful way. And that just really moves me as a fellow teacher. And so I just wanted to ask you, what within the voice studio, what does wholeheartedness mean to you?
So honestly, I was thinking about this a little bit because you use the word a lot. And so I was thinking, like, what does that mean for me? And it actually, there was a moment in my doctoral studies where one of my teachers, Lori Castadero, who is a delightful person and human and just was a very useful person all around to just know, and I appreciate her guidance and wisdom. She was fond of saying that the best research is me search, right?
Mhm.
And the best teaching is learning, right? Not just what you know abstractly, what you do in school, classes, etc., but it's the process of being in a journey alongside a person, not we've talked about before how I have a lot of objections to kind of the teaching where you sit behind the piano as your armor. You don't do anything that makes you vulnerable in the presence of your students, right? I maintain a performing life, I maintain writing life, all of these things in part because when I am talking to my students, I want to be able to say, listen, I'm talking from my personal experience. I'm speaking from having been there. I know what that feels like. I know how challenging it can be. I know how scary it is because let's face it, a great deal of what we do and what we ask our clients to do is quite scary.
Yeah.
Can be very destabilizing if you don't feel like really secure in the environment where you're doing it, right? So for me, it comes down to that I'm learning for myself, and because I'm learning for myself, I can then help other people learn, right? I can facilitate their journey by taking them along on mine. I make a big differentiation between education and learning. Education is something that is done to you. Learning is something that is done with you.
Love
And
that.
I think, yes, I think we do a lot of education, but not necessarily enough learning. And like I said, I think that's a two-way street. You're learning about them, they're learning about you, and vice versa too. You're learning about yourself through the lens of their experiences. I can't tell you how many like little eureka moments I've had listening to my clients talk through their own issues and be like, well, excuse me, sir. It's it's really interesting to be able to go back and forth together, but this requires that you view your clients as equal,
Yeah.
right? It does
Yeah,
not
you're both on the
support,
journey
yep.
together.
Yes,
Yeah.
it really does not support a hierarchical sort of approach to teaching, a sort of master student model.
Well, so I'm not the only one who has a book coming out. You have a chapter coming out in a book then where our release dates are the same, I believe, right? July 1st.
Which one are we talking about? Because I think there's several actually going on, maybe.
You have the student-centered book,
Yes, yes.
right?
Yes, I have two chapters in that actually.
Come on now, get it. Tell us just give us a little morsel for us to chew on for that.
So they're both my favorite topics. One is a student-centered approach to trans voices and voice training. The other is a student-centered lens for muscle tension dysphonia,
Mm,
which is a particular area where that's actually where my sort of philosophy on wholeness and holistic teaching really began to evolve because of my own experiences through that. And because I kept noticing over and over and over that I there's mechanical exercises. People talk about the mechanical stuff all the time, but we don't address the psychological. And a mechanical exercise does not fix a psychological problem, right? And
yeah,
so, treating MTD, or habilitating is the word we should use for that, right? Working it with habilitation with people who have experienced MTD is first and foremost a issue of trust, rapport, and security, because they're already coming to you feeling destabilized. So that was like when Dr. Coffey reached out to me to ask if I could do that chapter, I was like, oh, can I do this chapter? It's like, ma'am, please, so they're really fascinating topics to me because, again, I think both of them are places where we need to practice learning instead of education,
Yeah.
and where we need those flexible but strong boundaries, and we need that ability to be with the person in the moment to be able to help them truly. So it was really a great sort of confluence of events, and I'm so thrilled that both of us that I get to put my work with yours. That's such an honor, to be honest. Like,
I know, on the same day even. I can't wait to buy that book. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a lot of folks that I really admire, and yeah, thank you for sharing that, and I very much look forward to reading it, and thank you for sharing your wisdom in my book. Really meant a lot to me to have you be part of it, because you've been part of my teaching journey just as a friend and colleague for these last several years.
And I have to tell you, I have your book here. I am waiting till a very stressful project ends itself. And because I don't want the stress in the book to intertwine. So it's sitting here so that when I am finally through with that, I can pick it up and read it beautifully. I would also mention that I have a show actually that's going to be an off-Broadway run at the Flea in New York City in November of 2025, and I'm very excited about that. It's called The Passion of Miss DeMarco, Unemployed Stenographer. And I am so excited about this because I'm getting to actually apply the things I feel very strongly about in vocal writing to actually writing for voices in a large scale work. And I am so waiting to be humbled about this because, it's like you think, okay, I understand the rules. I know how I want to sing. And then it turns out, oh, there's 1,000,001 ways to sing. So we'll see how well that knowledge translates to actually notes on the page. But I'm very excited about that too. So thank you so much for having me with you and allowing me to do a little bit of shameless self-promotion.
Oh, please, of course. And you know that I will be there in the audience in November. I can't wait for it.
Absolutely. I am so thrilled to just with all of this. It's been just a great year, and I know you've had a really fantastic year as well. So it's so nice after COVID to feel like, oh, I have energy and forward movement in the things, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And onward.
Yes,
ever onward.
Upwards and onward.
Exactly. In the great before, which is what I personally call the time before the pandemic, I had the opportunity to be a visiting guest artist at the University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, with my dear colleague, Laura Josepher. And that's where I met my now dear colleague and friend, Luvada Harrison, who just happened to be in New York when we shot this.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm so glad you're here in person. It makes me very happy, my friend.
Me too. Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. You are literally the first live in-person person I've had on a podcast.
Oh.
Everything else has been Zoom, so
okay.
This feels very special.
Oh, thank you.
So first I get to thank you publicly for reading a chapter of the book, which I'm really grateful for you and for your support as I went through this process, which, Lord Jesus, it was a great process, but it was also, it's a lot.
I can only imagine. I'm not going to say I know because I don't. But I mean, thank you for just allowing me to be a part of it, because there was slight trepidation, and then in going into it, I enjoyed it. It made me think, which I always appreciate that. And then it's also sometimes when things are reinforced, it's like, oh, okay, I am doing that right.
We're all looking for that. It's like, oh, I do know what I'm doing. Yeah, I used to say that too.
I kind of do know what I'm doing. Okay.
one of the things that we've talked about is, and I really wanted to focus on in the book, is this idea that, we continue to amass information, right, as teachers, that we are advanced learners. I love Kari Reagan says that, we're advanced learners. And so we're just a little further down the path than our students, but we're still learning. But what is, I think, changed is that our students are learning and communicating differently now, right? And I was just wondering if you, I don't know, maybe had some examples of that, or kind of saw a shift in your years of teaching, a shift in how students are communicating and learning.
Well, so you said that, and something popped right into my head, because I had a student that I'd been working with, and I believe what I do is take in information, observe the individual, listen, and work for folks to find their voice. Like if I feel like a student is mimicking a recording of something, I will say, "Were you listening to so-and-so's recording of this song?"
Yes.
Yeah, I can tell. And so in particular, I had a student who was going through some identity issues, or identity processing identity.
Which so many students do, especially in that college years, right?
In college years.
Yeah.
And so he, at that time, came in and said, I just really want to find my authentic voice. And that was my reaction, what I just did, because I'm going, and I said, well, that's good, because that's what I've been working to help you develop since we started working. So explain to me what you mean by authentic voice.
Yeah.
And that had more to do with him going through what he was going to on the way to a they. And so wanting to do a song, and them thinking it had to do with the key, and me going, well, understanding something, you're doing it in the key it is written, but as it stands right now, your voice is going to sound an octave lower than you're singing the notes that a female would be singing.
Right.
As right now, a male, which I hesitate to say, you're going to sound, below this. But it threw me for a loop. It caused me to then go look for books on dealing with transgender voices, and going through how far could I go in questioning. I hesitated to say, well, are you going through any type of hormone replacement? I hesitated to ask those questions because I did not wish to get so personal.
Sure.
And that was a challenging experience, and part of it had to do with, as a teacher, I could do the research and speak with colleagues, speak with people who had more knowledge than myself on that transitioning subject matter.
Yeah.
I could do that as a human being, and being sensitive to what this individual was going through. Then I was like, okay, I'm not exactly. I mean, I worked to be as supportive as possible, going through. But that was, I essentially was like, okay, my Psych 101 course is, that is not helping me in this situation. And so I was like, all you can do is be as supportive to this individual as you can, and as they will allow you to be. So.
I mean, the thing that's coming to me, and you share, first of all, thank you for sharing that, because I think what comes to me is that, first of all, how wonderful that your student felt comfortable to have this conversation with you, right? That's really beautiful, and I think that's part of our job, is to create an atmosphere where students can have those conversations.
And I expressed my appreciation to them that they were comfortable enough to share that with me. Because what we do is so personal.
It's so personal.
It's so personal.
Yeah.
And so if you can't build that rapport and that trust, the learning isn't going to happen.
And because, especially because students do communicate in different ways than a lot of slightly older folks do.
Honey, I'm of a different generation at this point in my life.
Yes.
I'm another generation. I have to sometimes say, okay, wait a minute, what does that word mean?
Oh,
what do you mean when you're saying that word? Clue me in.
Yeah, my students often have to teach me like the new lingo, because it's very hard to keep up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's amazing that your students feel comfortable. And but what I'm also just want to mirror back is, I've come to, in researching this book, realize, student-centered learning is really a commitment to sharing a mutual vulnerability, where both the student and the teacher are willing to be vulnerable and malleable and be like, where are you right now? Okay, I wanted to teach you this, but that's not where we are right now. So let's do this. You want to learn this? Let me teach you this. You want to find your authentic voice and what that means for you today versus next week versus a month from now? Great. Let's meet you where you are right now, right? And let's do the research and be an advocate in whatever way that we can in the process.
And let's be patient with ourselves, because there's no immediacy.
Right.
That is I just use the phrase that, and I say a lot. This is not microwavable.
It's a great way of saying it. Yeah.
This is process.
Yeah.
And this is awareness of where you are physically on any given day, what the environment is that you're going into, what your mental state is on any given day, right? So it's not cookie cutter, and nor is it microwavable.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge, I think, that we definitely have as teachers in teaching. I don't think either of us teach any particular student in the same way. We can use the same vocalese, but it's not. We're not giving that vocalese to individuals in the same. It's not
right.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
And so that's the other thing that we deal with.
And that's I just want to mirror back that's both, I think, tricky, but it's also really wonderful, because then our teaching days are really varied.
Yeah.
And I find that when I can really be that present for a student and really meet them where they are and give them the tools that they need in that particular moment, then it makes the day so much more enjoyable for me.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I also know in scheduling, like, who I need to start my day with, who I need to end my day with, and who can be in here in between.
Yeah.
And that's student personality and student work ethic.
Yeah.
And mainly because, sometimes it's not always perfect, but essentially it's that thing, because I'm coming, it's a new day.
Yeah.
And I'm coming in with what's going to be presented to me.
You're trying to build a flow, right?
Right. And build a flow.
Yeah.
And go through. And those like, someone I know is going to take energy from me. I'm like, okay, let me give someone where there's mutual. Okay, I can put this person here because I know this and I can do that. And so over time, that's like, I work to plan out my schedule that way. And sometimes I can't. And then I'm like, get over yourself, and you still go in and give and do.
But like, can you think of a time where we've had that conversation as a community? Like where we talk about like hello, this is what I'm saying. I'm like, there's so much to what we do as teachers beyond the information, the ever evolving information that's there, right?
Right.
And so that's where like, that's a really great point that you're bringing up. It's not in the book. I have to write another one, but it's a really great point, like how you program your day, how you think about programming your day with your students to the extent that you can. Because I know there are lots of logistics,
right.
but
and
like
it takes time. It does. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Over the course of I can say decades now that I've been teaching, I figured that out.
Yeah.
And that also had to do with me and my taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes we also know this. Sometimes it's not teaching. Sometimes it's have a seat. It's like, okay, sit down, breathe, calm down. What is it that you need from me today?
Right. And that, as you're saying, that may not be vocal.
It may not be vocal.
Right.
It may be. I thought I could come in here and have my lesson, but I'm not gonna. Whatever happened, and I just don't know if I can sing today. And I'm like, that's okay. You do it. I have left my office and given the student the space that they needed for whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's what had to happen at that moment.
Yeah.
And that was more important because learning wasn't going to happen.
Of course.
So what would be and just stay here. So it has changed because I mean look, my teachers and how I was taught and
that would not fly today.
That would not fly. It would not fly today. And then it is still, we're on this side of it, but it's also still dealing with COVID. Remnants of COVID and different things that are there. It's when it's audition week and leading up to it, and sometimes you're calming them down to go, okay, just calm down. It's an audition. You need to. I don't know what to do. Okay, so let's talk it through. And sometimes that's and then that's like outside the lesson. Can I come talk to you later? Sure.
Yeah.
And go through. So there's so much more to teaching today.
Yeah. We all get to learn from each other.
Yes.
Isn't
that wonderful? Is that wonderful?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yay.
This is so much fun.
It's so much fun. Let's dive into part 2, Developing the Singing Artist. Chapter 5 is entitled Selecting Repertoire with the Student. I purposefully worded this chapter to be with the student because my experience is that teachers don't always have the most democratic approach, perhaps, to repertoire selection. And I'll admit that when I was starting out, I didn't either. So this chapter talks about the basic elements we need to keep in mind when selecting repertoire with the student and some new challenges teachers face as well, such as Fach, essence versus character type, and more. The goal of this chapter is to offer equitable, student-centered frameworks for repertoire selections so students feel fully invested, not to mention excited about what they're singing. In Chapter 6, the reader will explore fostering curiosity and resilience through practice. Here, I give a high-level outline of the neuromechanics behind motor skill learning, along with an exploration of different practice modalities. Readers will then discover practical suggestions to help students more effectively practice. And included in this is a conversation about resilience in the practice room. The field of sports psychology offers some really helpful information regarding how to keep students positive and focused in the practice room.
Chapter 7 is entitled Helping Students Access Final Performance Artistry. And this is one that I am super passionate about. I wanted to include a chapter about how to help students find their essence in a song. And so after cobbling together a working definition of artistry with the help of pedagogues throughout the ages, I lead readers through an analysis of 3 songs, a Western classical, musical theater, and pop rock song. I talk about the background of each piece, its musical and lyrical influences, musical and lyrical analysis, and ways to engage the singer in finding their own way into the heart of the song. We also discuss some ways to overcome performance anxiety. Finally, Chapter 8 is dedicated to objectively assessing student growth. I came across a study that noted that a majority of music educators never got any specific training or guidance regarding how to grade their students. As a result, they often relied on their own criteria based on how they were graded during their training. This is precisely the kind of issue we want to dissect more as teachers. So what is objective assessment? What does an initial assessment look like? How do we grade students within academic institutions? And what is the true source of a student's success? All of these matters are discussed. And finally, I offer some final thoughts, which wrap up the book, hopefully in a nice little tiny bow. And that's the book, y'all. It took me a little over 3 years to write, edit, and publish. And I am so proud of it and can't wait to share it with you. My next guest is someone I met while teaching at NYU Steinhardt. First, she was my coaching student, and then I had the pleasure of having her in my inaugural class, Vocal Repertoire for Teachers 2, this past fall. She is smart, joyful, and one of the reasons I am so hopeful about the future of vocal pedagogy and wholehearted teaching in the voice studio. Please welcome Adalynn Eller.
Adalynn, it's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's truly my pleasure. So you just recently graduated with your Master's of Music in Vocal Performance in Musical Theater Performance, yes. And then you also got a advanced certificate in voice pedagogy.
Yes.
Super impressive. And how is post-grad life treating you so far?
It's going really well. I'm currently at the University of Utah doing a summer vocology institute. So a lot more science involved so I feel like I got the pedagogy part with the practice and the art, and now I'm getting more of the science background. I am going to be full-time teaching starting in July, which is so exciting. I'm really excited. I found a really great company to work with, and so I'll be starting that July 21st, I believe. But yeah.
I'm so happy for you. And boy, are they lucky to have you. Sincerely. And I just want to acknowledge, so not only did you, because you finished your undergrad and went right into grad school?
Yes.
Yeah. And then you went right into vocology because, why not?
Why not? I've got time. That's
Exactly. But this is exactly why I wanted to talk to you, because you're such a bright early career pedagogue, and so I'm just really grateful for your time. So in our vocal repertoire for teaching class, we talked a lot about not only picking out repertoire that inspires healthy singing, but also picking out repertoire that inspires the singer themselves. And so I was just wondering if you could maybe talk just a little bit about things that you feel in your capacity now as an early career teacher that you're like, oh, I feel like I'm facile at kind of doing this part of the picking repertoire with students. And then maybe there's something that you're like, this is still kind of challenging me. Is there anything that comes up for you in those two kind of camps?
Yeah, I'd say I am a person that really likes people. I think that's why I teach well. So finding music that works well for the student, specifically like vibe or aesthetic, personality wise, I feel like is one of my strong suits. I love challenging people, pushing people to look further into the song rather than just, this is a song for a soprano,
Sure.
But I feel like one of the things I've been working on this past year is finding new music that has more representation than I think music previously has. So working, and I've been listening to a new musical every day, not really in the summer, but during the school year, I listen to a new musical every day, trying to find new pop singers, just exploring new avenues of music that I might not be as comfortable with. I had a few of my international students make me playlists of songs that are really popular in their country, just so that I could start learning what they like to listen to, but also find new artists. And I'm really good at music trivia now because I know a lot of music. But that's what I'm trying to work on right now, is getting better and finding a more wide range of music.
Yeah, boy, I will tell you, being about 30 years down the line from you, that is a lifelong pursuit. And I love that you're thinking about that. And, and that music has always been there. It just has not been lifted up. Right. And so one of the things that really inspired me from class was like our class's interest and passion for finding underrepresented writers and artists that we were able to kind of introduce to each other. Right. I think there's nothing to me more exciting than that. Like, it's such a reminder that, learning is not, we're not done learning when we start teaching, right? And that finding repertoire is not something that's just for the student. It's for us too. And it's so invigorating, isn't it? When you find something that, we listen to, admittedly, if you're listening to a new musical a day, like, you're listening to some stuff that's probably not the most amazing, but then you're also finding like this one little like piece of gold in like 13 songs of a show. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, why did I not know that? Right. In my book, I talk about kind of the definition of pedagogy being the art, science, and practice. And obviously Wholehearted Voice Pedagogy is kind of dedicated more to the art and practice side of things. And so I just, as someone who I think is just really smart, I was just wondering what are you thinking about when it comes to kind of like the art and practice side of vocal pedagogy these days?
Yeah, I've been researching disability in singing and in pedagogy, specifically looking at neurodivergence and physical disabilities that are invisible or visible. And I'm finding a lot of times that we don't know what's going on. And there are little accommodations that we can make in our studios for even just the normal, typical student. What does normal mean? Whatever. But these accommodations that we can make everybody more comfortable. It makes it more of a safe environment, more vulnerable environment for them to be able to share and grow with you. So that's my big topic. I recently was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and I'm finding more and more that it's very common nowadays to have invisible disabilities or neurodivergence and feel like you can't speak up in like theater spaces. You're always told to like march on through and get it over with. But I'm finding that like if your student needs to sit down for like 10-15 minutes and sing through this thing, it's not going to kill their posture or their singing. Like, it's not going to ruin the entire lesson. And these are little things that anyone can do in their studio to help make everybody comfortable and feel like it's a space for them rather than just rigid.
Yeah, I love that you're doing that work. That's so fascinating. I can't wait to hear more on that from you, because it's so true. And I think especially when we're starting to get to know the student, right? How do we create a framework right from the beginning that the student knows, like, look, there's been an evolution for me, in this idea of safe space. Like, we as voice teachers, we can't create safe space. Well, it's safe for us, right? Doesn't mean it's safe for the student, right? So like, how do we co-create safe space, right, with the student, and really let them know, like, look, I'm here for you. And so if there are things that you need from me, if there are ways that I can explain the work that we're doing that are beneficial to you, like whatever, literally whatever you need, you let me know so I can best, meet your goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's our job. But I think that's you mentioned vulnerability, and I think that there's a shared vulnerability that happens, that I've talked with some other guests in this episode about that means that we have to be malleable. We can't just be like, well, this is the way I teach and this is it, right? And that's hard because we want to be right. I can admit that, I want to go into a voice teacher and feel like go into a voice lesson and feel like I'm right, like I'm teaching my students the right way, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if we do our best teaching if that's the lens through which we're operating, right?
The vulnerability that you find with a student is not something that should be taken lightly. And the idea that you have to hit all of these goals within a lesson is, I think, outdated and outmoded and shouldn't be used anymore. We have to remember that singing often starts as a hobby. And by putting it through this lens of you have to do everything right, it just destroys any love you had for it in the first place.
Yeah. Preach. So true. I mean, that was me going to college and, undergrad and grad. I was like, I got to do it right. And it really wasn't until after grad school that I reconnected with my love through singing like pop rock styles and musical theater, and then saying, wait, this feels easier. Why does this feel easier? Oh, because I'm not trying to hit all of those marks. I'm not trying to do all of that, right? And it makes me so happy to see, you and your cohort, thoughtfully questioning things, not just throwing everything out, but saying, how does this serve today's students? And I just that is such an inspiration to me. Thank you again for sharing this day with me. It makes me so happy to see you and to hear you're doing so well, as I know you and your colleagues are. And I will know that I'm looking forward to your first book launch and your all the things that you're going to do in the world. It makes me really, really happy.
Thank you. It means a lot. It does.
Well, that's the episode. Thanks so much for listening in. I hope all this chatter about my book has piqued your interest and that you'll check it out. If you want to connect, as always, you can email me at wholeheartedvoicepedagogy@gmail.com, or you can find me on the socials at Sisco Songs or at Wholehearted Voice Pedagogy. Next time, tune in for a conversation with my amazing colleague, Dr. Vindhya Khare. We'll be talking about sex hormones and the singer. Until then, more soon. Take care of you.